morning, Tartaria, Australia. All right, so straight up, we're going to admit that we have internet problems today because we're back on our farm. Why are we back on our farm? Because we're building the stage. The stage for what, Campbell? What stage are we building?
For the Jolly Swag Tour, which yeah, dates will be announced soon. Um, yes. So we're building away, and getting rained on, and working and collecting wood from strange people, and yeah, doing all that.
And being dirty and wet and muddy all the time because it's been raining non-stop, which
Yeah,
has throttled our attempts at getting this done by now. But we're determined. We're determined this weekend. Heads up, anyone in the local area want to come out Saturday, Sunday, or Monday to give us a hand? We'd love that. It's in the Northern Rivers area. If you are local and around and just want to come and hang with us, like fuck yeah, come and hang.
yeah.
The more help we have, the better.
Bring a tent though. We don't have accommodation. It's a work in
Yes,
progress, but we are working
yes,
in progress.
yes. Or just come for the day and just hang out and, you know,
Yeah,
help us put a jigsaw of a stage together. It's our first stage attempt ever, Campbell. So it's our first building project with the stage involved. So I'm excited. I'm so
I know.
excited.
I know. We've built other things, but we've never built something that actually needs to be structurally strong enough to hold anything on it, right?
That's right. And you
So,
know, it's so much fun. It's so much fun getting out into the physical world. Back like when we were back before the 2000s, where the world was physical and we were all engaged in it. And that was reality. And I think that's a good place to kick off the show today because that's basically where we're going to start from what has happened to our time. But before we do that, Mr. Autodidactic, let me show a funny little clip that I thought would be really super fun
yes.
to open the world up, open up the show on today because it just reminds me of everyone in our audience. So, just for
Yeah.
something fun,
This
let's have
is
a little bit of a
good.
laugh to begin with before we depress the fuck out of you. No, kidding.
Not depressing people.
No, this is a positive
Positive
charge
charge,
show.
man.
Right. See who relates to this little beauty right now.
Oh, I'm totally into conspiracies. Don't even get me started. Oh yeah. Yeah, I am too. Like like are you into the conspiracies about like cloud seeding and geoengineering? Or like Jean Benet, like who really murdered her? Or is she perhaps Katy Perry? Or is it flat earth? Are you a flat earther? Or how like aliens are really demons and all famous people are clones and also aliens and lizard people? Like we're basically poisoned through our food, our air, our water, and soil. That's why we're all sick. Or like JFK Jr. and he's still alive. Or like there's whole underground cities all over the place. Or like Pizzagate. Like those kinds of conspiracies. Like what's your favorite one? Like what are you talking about? Oh, I was just talking about how there might be some traces of fluoride in the water. Oh yeah, that one's good too.
I when I saw that I laughed because it reminded me so much of me and everyone I know who's in this realm on this level. It cracked me up. I mean, I'm sure you can all relate to that clip, yes?
Yeah, we're all crazy. We're all crazy. Crazy conspiracy theorists.
So,
And
Mr. Order, oh, go on.
yes, one of our latest conspiracy theories is the quickening. Time is speeding up. And it has been confirmed by science. They are talking about moving the clocks a nanosecond.
Mm.
We're out by a nanosecond, apparently.
Mm.
But yeah, other people have got different takes on it. Like, leave us a comment. What do you think? Is it quickening?
McLeod, this is the quickening! Yeah! Yes!
Highlander time.
Yeah, I mean, geez, Cam, like, where do we start on this topic? So the last show we did, we looked at we looked at dreams and are we being programmed in our sleep? And we looked at the influence or the connection to water and the programming. And we did quite a detailed show with Guy Anderson about that topic and went down as far as our brains could handle that conversation live on the spot. But since then, we've been talking further about time, and it's undeniable to me that time is spent. I mean, it's just undeniable. I find living in this world right now quite a challenge on that level because my whole being is super hyper conscious of the fact that time has changed. I can feel it. I can feel it in my days blending together. I can feel it in the hours getting shorter. I can feel it I mean, like we're actually literally like Campbell and I came together almost 5 years ago now, 4 or 5 years ago. And when we were planning events and things to do for the year, we would look at planning things in June, July, September, and it would literally 4 years ago would feel like we were being super mature, that there was 9 months before that happened. Like we wouldn't have to worry about it yet. But now we're like, fuck, if we plan an event in November, that's literally going to be here in 2 weeks' time. That's a massive shift in time consciousness. And the last 12 months, 20 has peaked. Something has absolutely changed. And I know you guys will relate to this. I don't even have to ask. I know you do. So Campbell, I think we started this conversation, and it was a really random, intuitive one because we started with KFC, which is such a bizarre link to how all of this unfolded in our dialogues. But like, if we follow through the trace of our intuitive conversation, we did actually begin with KFC and the phenomenon that is this KFC commercial that's gone through the truth community in the last, 2 weeks. Do you want to start there? You want to start with KFC?
Where someone walks into like a lake of gravy and it's almost like a baptism, and they put them in the gravy and the person comes back as like a chicken strip thing.
Chicken drumstick, actually, all like with the Colonel's 11 herbs and spices all over him.
Secret herbs and spices.
Yes.
What are those secrets?
Now, I mean, it's interesting that two things about that. One, the commercial obviously has gone viral in the truth community because they've just released it. KFC have formally just released this commercial. So number one, KFC's released it. Number two, are they confessing what they believe, what is actually the truth? Are they putting it out there? And three, it's just really interesting how when one little thing gets released, the echo chamber that surrounds it within the truth community as far as AI goes and how the algorithms are now wiring and firing. So let's start with that commercial. So then we started talking about the food chain. Now, you told me something very interesting in that conversation.
Yes, about another video I saw where someone was talking or asking the question like, where does all the meat come from?
Yeah.
Mainly it is like the fast food because You know,
Yeah.
I think, what is it? McDonald's, is it 6 billion? I can't remember. A lot, millions and millions. It might be 6 million a day. I can't, but a lot of burgers, right? And then McDonald's is only one chain, right? There's so many massive chains. Where are they getting all the meat? Because if you look into how many cows there are, and also with cows, obviously, they take a few years to mature, right? So it's not like, it's a quick crop. So with all this consumption, where's all the meat coming from is the question.
Yes.
And this is why people have been jumping on this KFC thing, like, what is this food? And just as another note, something we mentioned was last year, in America especially, they were killing millions and millions, tens of millions of chickens all across
And
the
the
country.
UK.
And the
Yep.
UK, right, for the bird flu, right?
Yep.
But all these chicken shops, like in America, Popeyes, Chick-fil-A, we've got like Red Rooster and Chicken Treat and stuff, and KFC, the chicken never slowed down, right? Like those fast food outlets never once said, "Oh, we're running out of chicken. Sorry, we're closed today."
Yeah.
They just kept pumping it out. So where's it all coming
That's right. That's right. And actually, on that topic, another clip I saw was an elderly gentleman. He was sitting outside the two chains in America. So the two chicken chains in America are Popeyes and
from?
Filippo
Chick,
Chico Fillet.
Chick-fil-A,
What? Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A.
And he was noticed Chick-fil-A, and he was noticing that there was literally like 3 lines all day out of both of these chains. And he's like, "Fuck, they must have the best chicken sandwich in the goddamn world." Like, and he went in, just random. He went in and had a look, and then he started to sit. Sat down and started to actually investigate the ingredients on both of their chicken sandwiches. Each one of them has Popeyes had 40 man-made chemicals, and Chicken Olay had 50 man-made in their chicken sandwich. Just in their chicken sandwich. And these chemicals, once you get into them, they're drugs. And so he made the conclusion that they were actually drugging the population like into a state of like psychiatric docileness. So not only obviously were they putting in all the preservatives and the different chemicals to make you addicted to it, but it was literally like adding like psych sort of level dosing of the inmate sort of thing. So that came out. I watched that this week just to sort of.
I said, this ain't no regular chicken sandwiches. So I went and looked up Popeye's chicken sandwich. Come to find out, they have over 40 ingredients in the Popeye's chicken sandwich. 32 of them were man-made chemicals. And I said, well, let's see what Chick-fil-A has. Over 50 chemicals in the chicken sandwich. Over 40 of them were man-made chemicals. I said, so hell, this is a dope sandwich. So they really are flipping birds over there. I mean, because there's no way in the world to justify. So whenever I seen that, I said it in a message, and someone took the clip of it and then went on the website of Chick-fil-A, had it broke down where they were clicking on it, showing all of the ingredients and these chemicals that were in it. Do you know the next day Chick-fil-A took that down off their website? So now you can't find the ingredients to the Chick-fil-A sandwich or the Popeye's chicken sandwich because they don't want you to know that they're drugging you, they're doping you, that they have you wanting the food not for nutritional value, but because you become addicted by the MSG and the other chemicals that they inserted in that also are immune system disruptors. They ill affect your brain, mess with your arteries, and any foreign substance automatically activates the immune system, which means our bodies, when we eat this kind of food, they are fighting an unnecessary battle. So when the real battles of disease show up, the systems are too worn out by fighting these small battles every day from bad eating that they can't handle a virus when it shows up. So it'll do us a great service. As the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said this, he said, you must get your mouth out of the white man's kitchen. And remember this, the minister said this, whoever controls your kitchen controls your revolution. Because food affects mood. We are what we think, but we also are what we eat. And if we have the wrong teacher multiplied by the wrong diet, we're going to engage in the wrong activity and success won't be ours.
And then, of course, what do we always hear in the movies, man, around chicken?
Yeah, well, yeah, there's this thing of, humans taste like chicken, right? So is that what's
How many times have we heard that?
Yeah. It's out there as a narrative. And then, we have movies like Brave New World, where they're all in this city and some guy escapes and finds out that they're being fed humans, right? The people who die actually become the food.
Cloud Atlas.
Cloud Atlas,
Cloud Atlas, the same.
same. Soylent
Yep.
Green, the same.
They're making our food out of people. Next thing, they'll be breeding us like cattle for food. You gotta tell them. You gotta tell them.
Promise, Tiger, I promise. I'll tell the exchange.
You tell everybody. Listen to me, Hatcher. You gotta tell them. Silent breed is people. We gotta stop them somehow.
So that's
Yep.
another narrative, right? And then on
Yep.
top of that, if we put all like the spirit cooking and all this weirdness from the Elites in there, they actually did have I don't know if I can even say the word, right? One of those Canna Bula restaurants in Los Angeles, I heard. So you know what's really going on here, and with the drugs, yeah, like they're using these obviously to get people addicted, but also to make people docile, right, and stupid. And you know we see a lot of that around the world, and you know people who eat fast
Yep.
food all the time and also drink soft drinks all the time. They're a certain kind of person, right? And that's probably because they're so drugged.
Yeah, I know. And I've watched a lot of those little clips randomly where people go up and ask general knowledge questions to just random people on the streets.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I've watched people go through the universities in America and just basically talking to students. And yeah,
Oh my
they do
God.
appear to be, yeah, very, their intellectual cognitive behavior it does feel to be oppressed and suppressed for some reason. Like it's obviously lower than it should be, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, like the schools are bad, but these people, these college interviews, they don't seem to have the cognitive power to even work out an answer.
We know that you guys already know most of this. This is not the topic of conversation today. But it is interesting because if you do the maths on chicken, don't take anything else into the equation, but just on chicken, the amount of chicken consumed across the earth every single day, and not just in fast food, but in supermarkets and every other food outlet and every other restaurant, chicken is like it's just number one. Does not equate by any means to the production that one could possibly achieve through chicken, especially because, you know, you get certain amount of meat and cuts from each chicken. And the industrial procedure around industrial chicken, I mean, it's disgusting and awful even to look at. We're not going to go into that. I highly recommend none of our audience is anywhere near that sort of consumption and dealing with farmers markets and localized food chains. So that chicken, even the ones in the supermarket, Campbell, is very questionable as to what potentially it is. Now, I don't know if you've seen Cloud Atlas out there in the tribe out there, but Cloud Atlas is really, unfortunately, it's got some shitty actors in it who I can't stand anymore. So I'm not going to recommend you go watch it because it's got Tom Hanks through it. But it certainly shows you they basically started feeding population themselves. And the lowest form of vibrational output you could achieve as far as diet goes, it's bad enough we have no idea what to eat in general speaking, but actually eating your own species is basically the biggest fall. You there?
Yep. Can you hear me? Hello. Ground control.
So basically, the reason that we started with KFC because it's going to take us to a conversation about vibration, and
Yeah.
that's going to take us back to time. So let me share to Major Tom. So just on the topic of KFC, just randomly speaking in this new commercial, I have never watched a KFC commercial before. Have you ever watched any older KFC commercials?
No. No. I remember, didn't they have like a little bird in one of them, like what are they called, a chicken hawk? That's all I remember, but not really.
I don't remember.
Definitely nothing with the actual kernel in it. I've never seen one that old.
All right. Well, this is emerged as a response to the latest commercial. It's from 1967. Just to give you the vibe of what KFC was presenting all those decades ago and see what frequency you think it sits on.
I say let's muffle them. Let the lie detector do it. We want your secret recipe for Kentucky Fried Chicken. And we want it now. You're going to tell us now?
Why, it's my pleasure, lady.
Go ahead, tell us.
First, we take some eggs and some milk and
Yes, Colonel.
some flour and savory.
And?
And then we have 4 ounces.
4 ounces of what?
4 ounces of 4 ounces of grandfather's overcoat.
Give up, girls. How to blend 11 herbs and spices that make Kentucky Fried Chicken so finger-licking good. That's the Colonel's secret. Forever.
Now, Colonel, let's try it again, and this time the truth.
Finally, I had 3 shoelaces and a hubcap.
It does feel very vibrationally creepy, right? And that was from 67. And, you know, like when it was quite, it comes across quite satanic and quite diabolical. Certainly not that image of the friendly food chain with the old grandfather Sanders, or like, you know, it doesn't have that vibe.
No, and of course, you know, Kentucky Fried Chicken, or KFC, used to be called Kentucky Fried Chicken, and the narrative is that they changed it because they didn't want to use the word fried, right? Because oils were bad or whatever in the 90s. But there's another story going around that they had to stop using it because they weren't actually selling chicken. So do with that one what you want.
And of course, they've all been tested and found heaps of human DNA in every place they've tested, both McDonald's and KFC. Interestingly, KFC is the number one across the world. It's bigger than McDonald's.
Yeah,
It's the number one food outlet in Asia, in the Middle East. Like KFC's big, man. It's
big
everywhere.
all through
It
Asia.
is.
Yeah. In
So-
Japan, they have Kentucky Fried Chicken on Christmas, which is like their Valentine's Day, and their ritual is to go out and have Kentucky Fried Chicken with your partner.
Yep.
Crazy.
Yep. It's like it's ingrained culture, man. So, all right, the reason that we think that's interesting and worth noting is that there is a diabolical agenda with our food chain, and it's so much deeper than understanding it's full of chemicals. It's so much bigger than, and then you add like literally 80 million kids missing every single year across the world, like insane numbers, like reported insane numbers.
Yeah, I did a quick search and here's what I got. Globally, approximately 60.5 million metric tons or 60 billion kilograms of beef is produced. All right, so then if we go, how much is consumed? We get globally approximately 350 million tons or 350 billion kilograms. So we're producing 60 billion kilograms but eating 350 billion kilograms.
Yep.
Bit of a discrepancy. How does that make any sense at all? Where's all the meat really coming from? What is it?
Yeah, what is it? And as Cam pointed out, like whenever there's been issues with the food chain, as in natural disasters, like what's happening in Queensland, poor Queensland, hearts go out to you guys. The water's been shocking, shocker. And yes, Australia's media did not cover Queensland's diabolical flooding situation in any capacity, which just further highlights the agenda behind the recent cyclone obsession the media went onto and its innate, unnatural, man-made context. But yes, it didn't get covered. But millions and millions of our stock has been drowned, basically. Now that would, and since Australia exports all their meat, because we're not sovereign and we are an op shop and we just like bargain basement prices, whoever comes, whatever country wants it, we'll give it to you. Doesn't matter about our own people. Anyway, whenever there's something like that happens, and there's a lot of that going on, and when you travel around to these countries where the vast population is like India and China and Egypt and Morocco and Middle East and all those places I've been visiting, their population is dense and their farming is non-existent. So the farming production of the world's meat consumption is only coming from a few places, and Australia is one of them.
Yeah.
So when you add all that up, and yet not once have we ever, in the history of our current food chain, ever seen any of the fast food outlets ever have an issue with meat shortages, ever.
ever,
ever.
ever. No, they just keep pumping it out, pumping it out. Yeah, so yeah, everyone's consuming it. Everyone's getting, it's obviously not good for you. They're, getting unfit and overweight and stupid, and we know that, fast food is part of the agenda as far as they don't even want us to know how to cook for ourselves, right? They'd rather just go out and buy their crap, get on their drugs and get stupid, right? So easy to control. But so it is a control mechanism, the whole fast food industry. So what is it really? What are we eating? What is all these burger, right? And then of course
Yeah.
we've got the whole pig thing, right? And the whole pigs are very closely related to humans. Are they humans? There's all these stories about, banished people or, bad people being turned into pigs. And so that's a whole nother rabbit hole.
And then you've got the whole idea of calamari, which we've talked about before. Just another
Calamari.
example, like where the fuck does calamari come from? It's not
Well,
farmed.
yes,
It's not from squid.
no,
Like what is calamari?
I had a friend who said it comes from the animal industry, and he said it was lips and buttholes.
Yeah, lips and butts. But ultimately it's just a white compound that's been like it could be anything, including what is a part of all of this conversation, which potentially is our food chain is founded on cannibalism. Our food chain is founded on humans, human consumption of human. That's a big thing to say and get our heads around. Human consumption of humans, which would essentially be the lowest vibrational fall from grace one could possibly go to as a culture. If their whole agenda is to lower the frequency of this realm and of us as the creators, then like having us without our consciousness consume human meat would be like a very no-brainer idea to achieve. I mean, I would think
I mean,
if
everyone
it's a
talk.
vibrational realm.
Mm. We all talk about the human trafficking all the time, like
Yeah.
we know it goes on, we've got stats on it, right? But I think everyone assumes that they're sold into either just slavery or, sex slavery. But what if they're sold for something else? What if there's a whole different industry going on there?
Yeah, and what if there's a whole underground industry going on as well that also produces genetically modified, human
Well,
human species mixed in with different
yeah.
genetics and different species, and then
Mm,
that is then recycled into the population. What does it look like when a human population is consuming itself plus mixed up with other entities, animals, and maybe extraterrestrials? What does
mm.
that look like?
Well, it looks like the collapse of society, right? Because literally it's eating
Yeah.
itself, like as within, so without. And they just introduce these concepts and they've kept introducing them over decades and they make, hanging out at the burger bar cool. It came in the 50s and 60s. It was a place to be and get down and all that.
Yeah.
And then to the point where like a generation later, it's literally normalized, right? And then and we know it's like everything. It probably started off as food like, much more like actual food. And then they just change it slowly over time. And 50 years on, who knows what you're eating. But I mean, we know it's packed full of chemicals and drugs and stuff that shouldn't be there, but we
Yeah.
don't actually know what the meat
And
is.
then
There's no answer for it. Like, where is it? Where's it coming from?
yep, that's right. And you've got the whole conversation about seafood just being like basically water bugs and water spiders and
Man,
water
arthropods,
parasites and ticks and fucking all sorts of
fleas,
disgusting
prawns of
things. Yes,
fleas. Yeah.
that's right. And looking at the meat that they produce, the meat that a lobster produces compared to a tarantula spider, they're basically identical, all white meat. Interesting. Interesting. And then, of course, let's take it back through Tartaria and the concept that all of our salts are basically the remains of the giants. So that's another
The
consuming
rock
another
salt.
form of human.
Yes, good point. Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
my God. Yeah. So everywhere we look from these lens, you can find evidence that potentially we exist dominantly now in a cannibalistic society. Cannibalism, as far as like historically through nations and tribes, is very quite common. If you look up cannibalism through time in the world. There's still communities today that practice it. It's part of their normal culture. It's very common.
Yeah.
Um,
In Papua New Guinea, just north of the closest island to Australia.
all right, so there we go. So side note, something for everyone to consider that we live in a world where we are consuming humans in all manner of ways through all sorts of industrial food that has absolutely nothing to do with holistic eating of animals and plants. That it's become solely inorganic and they have mastered the art of deception, which we know they are masters of, and mastered the art of deceiving the food. You know, how it looks, what it tastes like, the color of it, the packaging around it is now ingrained and acceptable. You go into Woolworths, you buy some no brand chicken breast. What are you eating?
Well, remember all those videos that came out last year of
Yeah,
people buying fruit and meat? You know, like there was the bananas and the watermelon that was rubbery, and people buying ice creams that didn't melt,
yeah.
and meat, chicken and meat that was very strange. I saw a video where a lady had a carton of eggs, 12, and cracked them all, and every single one was a double yolker.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what is going on here? Like, what are we consuming?
I mean, it's a pretty phenomenal. I know we've touched on the food chain quite often throughout our videos, but like to take it at that sort of level and scale, that's a pretty phenomenal moment of deprogramming one's brain. Like that's a pretty fucking big statement to say that we live in a culture founded on cannibalism.
Yeah.
That's pretty fucking big.
Yeah, well, I mean, look at the elites. Prince Charles, says that he's related to Vlad the Impaler, who is Dracula. He's quite happy
Yep.
about that. Of course, vampires are basically cannibals.
Blood suckers.
Are they like
Yep.
cannibals on a water fast, do you think? I don't know. They're just on the liquids, right? But yeah, like all these
Are they what? I didn't hear that.
are vampires like cannibals, but on a water fast because they're just drinking the liquid.
Well, I'm glad you brought up water. I'm glad you brought up
Water.
water, Campbell. But yes, yes, well, vampires still part of our cultural mythology, not validated outside the truth community. But yes, this vampirish action, these blood rituals, this satanic agenda, and also this whole like drain all the blood out of what you don't get bloody food. Have you noticed that? You remember back in the when we were kids, like mum and dad would bring home meat and it would be bloody. There would be like blood on it still. I mean, I remember this. Today it's so sanctified, so clean. You know, those that industrial chicken goes through a cleansing process of chemicals to get rid of any potential salmonella. They're apparently they're like killing and processing, over 300,000 chickens a day, some of these places.
Oh my
And that all
God.
gets washed in like this acid type liquid. Yeah, that bleaches it and sterilizes it and puts it into that nice shape and that nice color that has no blood and guts and then packaged and sent out into the world. So,
Nice.
there's
So
many
yeah.
processes of deception.
Yeah, you might die of chemical poisoning, but at least you won't catch salmonella, guys.
Mm. So, but like back to the water, Campbell. So then we
Water.
started to get back onto this low frequency energy. Like we know that at the end of this agenda, this is a war on frequency, right? It's a war on vibration. That's why we've started the positive charge movement. That's why we've looked at the change in service to self and service to others and the change in the poles and what that looks like and how that relates to these times. Um, and yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, this is a vibrational issue, right? We are vibrational beings, and those who have enslaved us have caught us up in a very low density, and most people aren't even conscious of it. So then we start to look back at this notion of time, my friend, time, time, time. So
And by the way, we are doing
time,
Get Your Shit Together hour every morning. Link
yeah.
below. Come and join us.
Yeah, fucking oath. Come and join us. It's very empowering every single day to wake up and know that you've committed to doing an hour's work of clarity and meditation and gratitude and writing and breathing. It's a very empowering practice.
It is.
Everyone who's doing it is really getting a lot out of it. We are getting a lot out of it. It keeps it keeps your thought process stable for the day. That's what I like about
Keeps,
it.
yeah, it does. It gets you focused, keeps your chi flowing. And
Yeah,
yeah,
because how hard is it? I mean, I find it personally very hard to keep my head in a good positive disposition these days. You know, there's just so much infuriating
yeah.
content and content connect. Yeah,
And also the quickening. The reason we started is like if we don't get our shit together now, it'll be December and the year will be
that's
gone,
right.
and we'll be like, what the hell? We achieved nothing again.
That's right.
Oh my
That's
God.
right. Yeah. So let's look at the quickening.
Did you know that in recent years there has been more and more talk of time speeding up? You've probably noticed it yourself. The acceleration started around 1980. Scientists are noticing that time is passing faster. People have less time to do things than they used to, and scientists are already putting numbers on it. A modern day is equivalent to 18 hours, not 24. People now in their 40s look like people in their 30s used to look. For example, monks in a monastery on the holy island of Mount Athos noticed this because they didn't have enough time to pray. For centuries they have been reading the same prayer book, and now they don't have time to read it in a day. And in Tibet there is a monastery in which every day at the same time monks burn candles that should burn exactly 24 hours. The technology of production of these candles do not change for hundreds of years. So, since some time the monks have noticed that the candle does not have time to burn out in 24 hours. And the most frightening thing is that every year, time begins to fly faster and faster. By the way, have you ever noticed that time has gotten faster? Or is it all a game of our brain and imagination?
So then we started to look at the quickening, and it took us, as we were researching, it took us to the year 2000, Campbell, and let's start the conversation on Y2K, which our little truth community haven't been talking about for a long time now. You know, Y2K. What was your experience of Y2K?
Well, it was big. It was everywhere, right? And it was,
Yeah.
they were posting it as the end of the world. Basically, we're going
Yep.
to be thrown back to be troglodytes living in caves because, when it flipped over to 2000, when they originally made the first computers and did the base programming, it was all on the 1900s. And they went, oh my God, when it flips over to 2000, the computer won't know what's happening and everything will
Yep.
go crazy. Planes will fall out of the
Yep.
sky. They literally said planes will fall out of the sky. And we actually know
Yep.
someone who bought a ticket and flew on New Year's Eve because they were really, really cheap and the plane didn't fall out of the sky.
Yep.
But yeah, but what actually went on there? Like there was hundreds of billions of dollars spent rewriting all this stuff. But we can kind of link this in a little bit to like the Mandela effect and this quickening effect. Like when we look back
Yep.
at when was the real time, the real time, we tend to go 80s or 90s, right? We don't tend to come into the 2000s. So definitely something
Yeah.
happened around the turn of the century that things just started to get different, right? They seem to feel less real. Time started to get distorted. After that, the Mandela effect popped up and all this kind of thing. And of course, a lot of that has to do with the birth of the computer age and people spending time in a virtual world rather than an actual physical world.
Yeah, I mean, definitely for me, that was my first moment of being conscious of prepping. I remember I was still at university and I was just like, fucking Y2K, what is this? What's going on? And I mean, I had the beginning of a computer, I had the beginnings of being on a computer. So it wasn't like we were fully engulfed in technology at that point in time. It was still a relatively new concept. A lot of things hadn't begun yet, the YouTubes and that sort of stuff. Google was still really quite foreign concept. And it was still quite a foreign concept. Like you knew that computers ran things like airports and airplanes and, bigger like infrastructure, but we hadn't really owned it yet personally. It wasn't a personal device yet. And if you had one, you were basically just a nerd that was slightly ahead of your time and spending lots of money trying to have some form of this computer. So Y2K was my first introduction to prepping, and I did to the best of my stupid student doll allowance. And I don't know what, a little box full of cans or something, but it was conscious. I was conscious of it. And and of course nothing happened, but so much did happen. So let's reflect now. If you go to the year 2000 in your own lives, Like that was the turning point where devices started to become personalized, and it started with mobile phones. It was around 2006, 5, 6 that I had a mobile phone like that. So it was around that era that the mobile phones started to be introduced. And with those, they started to have screens on them. And then they started to get smarter. And then the internet, and then the home laptop. And well, you guys know the progression. But it all sort of started around the year 2000. And one thing that Cam and I were looking at was like the themes of the eras that had come before. So just to go back to that, Cam, like you guys, if you say talk about the 80s, yes, there's a very distinctive concept of what the 80s was. You know, there was shoulder pads and there was fucking
Perms and
hairspray,
mullets.
perms and mullets, and you know, there was like crazy, you know,
Loud,
fluoro fashion and
hypercolor, and
hypercolor
very
and
kind of business looky, and
yeah.
the music was all very synthy and poppy.
Yes. And the men look very feminized in the synth. There was a real, you could really, all of you could sit here and describe the 80s. And we'd all have a very consistent image of what the 80s felt like. And you could do it to the 70s with the
Yep.
glam rock and
Yeah.
the fucking hippies and the makeup, men wearing
Brown, yellow,
makeup.
and orange, everything.
Yes, yes. And then you can take it through to the 60s.
Afros.
That's right. So you can basically sit here easily and define those eras that came before 2000. You can define the cultural interests, the cultural trends, the fashion, the vibe, the genre. You can, and you know, you can go on to any music's thing and go 80s, and that will come all the music from the 80s, from the 90s. And then in the year 2000, something changed. Something shifted, because could you sit here and define the 2000s, trends of the 2000s? Could you identify a genre of fashion, a genre of music, any political movements? Like, could you define anything about the 2000s? Something changed, right?
Yeah, I don't even know who the president of the US was, or the prime minister of Australia in the 2000s. I don't know.
Yep.
Was that when Kevin Rudd gave us free money? That's the only reason I remember Kevin Rudd.
No idea. No idea. But essentially the 2000s, and then like what's the next, how do you say the next 2000s to the 2000 and what's the next?
2010s, I
The
guess.
2010s. All right, to the 2010s. Again, could you define the fashion? Can you define the music? Can you define the movement? Because what happened at that point after Y2K is we started to get the beginnings of the recycling, the beginnings of recycling and replicating and recycling, didn't we? Like
Yes.
you started to get the mixture of all this stuff.
And all remakes in movies started to come out.
Oh, the
You know,
remakes.
sampling in music came out.
Yep.
So they were basically recycling the movies, the music, you know, all the fashions kind of
Yep.
we just all recycled from the last, you know, the previous kind of
Yep.
30, 40 years, everything. And then, of course, online, you know, we found ourselves in these spaces where people were just copying each other. You know, we got into this thing where everyone was after the dopamine hit, right? And Facebook posts and things. And so they all started to become the same and repeats. And, you know, no one's sad on Facebook ever, right? Everyone on Facebook has a perfect life. They're always happy in an amazing photographic location. We know
And
this.
if they are sad, it's on trend. If it's on trend, Campbell, if they're sad, it's on trend. I
Yeah.
mean, it's true. Like, so what we could say about from Y2K onwards is that a couple of things happened. Technology extremely advanced very quickly. From Y2K onwards, it's extremely advanced. Time started to change, and we got the introduction of algorithms. So those three things happened simultaneously, and it wasn't obvious to us at the time, but that's actually what happened around the world. So then you've got to ask the question, like, what did they actually do? What was Y2K actually about? What did they actually do? What was it that they upgraded the entire software of the entire planet for Y2, spent $300 billion on it or something? It's either 30 or 300
No,
billion dollars.
300 to 400 billion. Yeah.
Yep. Upgrading upgrading all of the technology across the realm. Did they, at that moment, upgrade to a level of artificial intelligence? We just didn't know about it at that point. Did algorithms get introduced and become smart? The Y2K idea is a cover up for something they did around technology.
Yeah, well, it was a good excuse to shut down, right? All these big computer networks and reboot them as something else.
Yeah.
Which is what you need to do. That happened recently, right? With TikTok. People, remember they shut down TikTok for 12 hours and people worked out that's just long enough to reroute the hard drives or whatever it is. So did that happen again? We don't know. But yeah, what happened in 2000 and why does it seem that everything after that year seems less real? I mean, yes, we're all online a lot more, but that's also been a progressive thing. In the 2000s, not everyone was on. I mean, if I think Facebook was 2007, was it? I think YouTube was around the same. So for the early part of the 2000s, the social media didn't exist. But still, try and think about what was going on in 2005. What were the trends? What were the movies? Who were the presidents? Like, I got no idea, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like the blockbusters cease to exist. Sort of that sort of like things.
Blockbuster. Yes.
I guess what it feels like is the world became less physical, less physically
Yes.
integrating.
Yeah.
So your entertainment styles changed. Your what you did to socialize changed. Your music sort of like became a blend and a meld of, like looping from the past. Like
Yeah, well,
the fashion.
autoplay, right, is another thing that started coming up. Remember all the iPods and stuff? And it'd just
Yes.
keep playing. So we weren't choosing as much, like choosing the different songs or whatever. Stuff was just being served up to us, basically. And
Yes.
everyone also started to go online, right? And basically create an avatar, really, to create an alternate personality online, because the personality online wasn't actually them. Again, right?
Yep.
Go and look at Facebook. No one's telling you the truth. There are all these, amazing people. Oh my God, and my partner's the best in the world, and my kids are amazing. And they go home and cry, right? And it's like it's all false. So people created this version of themselves online that existed online but wasn't real.
Yes. Yes, it was the moment in time where everyone kind of realized and accepted, without much resistance, that they, in order to be successful in business or as a creator or as any other genre, you would have to have an online presence. Like you would need an email, then you would need to. I mean, I remember
Website.
back in the day there was MySpace.
Yes, yes.
Yep, and then you needed to have MySpace. Then you eventually ended up needing to have a social platform, and then now all business essentially has to be run online, like all of it. And
Yeah.
actually, it's promoted that way through the algorithms, where for young people, they couldn't even comprehend having a physical business anymore. That would be out of their thought process. Like it's all online for them. It's about how to do this quickly and successfully with the least amount of physical effort. So it all strips physical effort. And you go down any main street in any town or city around the world, and you'll see two things. You will see one, that there's very few like actual physical stores available anymore, and the ones that are there are basically on repetition.
Yeah.
Like one of the things about all the trips I've done is that the marketplaces and the Medinas and the areas where people shop are just the same shop every 3 shops. It's the same shop. So you don't get these shops where you're a creator of clothes or of something. You're an innovator of a product or a creator. You don't get the shops that then you can go and sell your product to anymore. That doesn't exist anymore. You don't get that individualized, unique artisan output as product anymore. You don't you don't get the boot makers or the shoe repairers or the the leather workers or the metal people or none of that exists anymore.
No.
You don't see it anywhere. You just get H&M and fucking Boost Juice and all the brands.
Yeah.
You just go to the main street of any Western world, it's the same thing on repeat.
Yeah. I mean, I saw that a lot in America with all the food, like the fast food. It's just the same thing on repeat everywhere. Like it's just
Yeah.
everything's a copy. It's a copy of something. There's no originality, there's no imagination being put out anymore. Everyone's, like even if you're building a website back in the, 2010s or whatever, you might be trying to put still creativity into it, but you had to do it on a platform that someone else created and you had restrictions at what, so it started chopping that down. And of course, like Kelly said, people started going online more and more because it was cheaper, right? Obviously, kept costs down, like you could start businesses, but people started making businesses to make money, not because they had a good idea, not because they wanted to serve people, not because they were creatives and they wanted to get their products out there. It was to make money. And this is what she was saying about all the markets is instead of the artisans there and the artists and the craftsmen making their stuff and selling it, as people doing it for money. They're all getting the same stuff in from China. It's all crap. And they're selling it, and it's the same thing. It's recycle, reuse, reuse. And it's like a photocopier. If you make a photocopy of a picture and then you get the photocopied picture and put that in and photocopy that and keep doing that, at the end, there's not much of a picture left, right? And
That's right. And
that's what seems to be happening.
And then you've got a shift through the genres where you get to the 2000s and suddenly the world's turning into a monochromatic vision where because it now is all based on how to make money using this technology that's not physically real for you. It's not like you've gone and use your hands and your good sense of style and taste to innovate something. You've just flipped through an online portal and try to find a product that not everyone's selling, pull it out of China, put some package on it, and you've got it back into Amazon drop shipping, and you've got a business. You haven't even touched anything, right? Yep. And so obviously when the world is operating in this way, they don't they're going to get rid of all the variables that are going to maybe sell less product and heighten all the variables that are going to sell more. And in this case, obviously, you get rid of color because color is a personalized decision. But black and white and gray, those monochromatic colors, that is so everyone suits those colors. Not everyone suits them, but they will be fine for everyone. And then so all the houses started to become white and black and gray, all the cars, the fashion of the 2000 onwards became suits and this really, you got rid of all that crazy patterny, clashy 70s hippie style fashion out of the window. It all became monochromatic. So that, and to me, what's obvious about monochromatic is that it basically funnels your vision. So it basically moves your vision into a much more tight, focal point, that sort of broad version of possibilities and potentials, that the broadest version of the color spectrum is getting more and more and more and more redundant, less and less and less utilized, less choice, less craziness, less diversion, less patterns, less color.
Yeah.
And that's a sign to me that in the 2000s, something changed. So let's get back to that concept, Cam.
So why
if you've got suddenly an introduction
up?
of technology.
Sorry, you
go. No, yeah. If you've got an introduction of technology that becomes a personal device, and then you've got this thing called algorithms suddenly introduced. We didn't even have a word for that back then. We wouldn't know the word algorithm. It wasn't a part of our culture at all.
We only knew Al Gore. We didn't know he had rhythm.
That's right. Algorithms, what is this magical, mysterious thing that now govern our entire reality, right? And make the AI super smart, but also make us in an echo chamber. So we introduced the algorithms in the year 2000 when they switched over from Y2K. Then suddenly what happens to time? We become on a tighter and tighter and tighter loop because algorithms and technology creates echo chambers around you. And so your echo chambers are basically getting smaller and smaller and smaller. You're being fed specific and more specific information that aligns with that echo chamber, and then you're competing with that echo chamber. So then your output is to serve that echo chamber. So then you're serving the things that is being echoed back to you that echo chamber wants. And so you're becoming even less and less and less free and full of possibilities and potential. And is it that the algorithms, Campbell, have basically put us into a tightened time loop of replication and recycling, and that has altered our notion of time itself?
Yeah. But there's no new ideas being put out there. So there's no like real new inventions, right? There's no new artwork. There's no new themes. There's no new imagination, right? It's all recycled. So is that what, we obviously, we all a lot talk about, we create our reality through what we think. Is the fact that reality is getting a bit thinner because people aren't thinking as much, right? And when you think about it, who are traditionally the most creative and imaginative people, humans, it's the children. And they're some people are raising their kids with screens at age 1 and 2, right? I've actually seen shopping trolleys, and with a little kid, you put your kid in the front, and it had like a holder for a tablet for your toddler, right? So kids aren't putting out all this thought, all this imagination into the world, into the environment, and neither is anyone else. So is that what this place needs to run? Does it run on imagination? And when you start taking that away, it all starts imploding. People start getting sick. Time starts to be irrelevant. Basically, it's a breakdown, right? Because it's like the never-ending story, right?
Yeah.
The nothing.
Yeah.
How do you defeat the nothing? Imagination.
It's true. And like, you think about it when you were younger, because we're still lucky enough that we can draw on these memories, right? Oh, memory was the other thing. So you think about drawing on those times when you were younger, when you'd jump out of bed, you'd like lounge around for a bit. You'd get ready for school. You'd eat. It'd take ages to get to school, and then you're at school and you do your school day, and that just like took ages. And then it was 3 o'clock, and you got home and you ran and you had your afternoon tea, and then you went outside, right? And you meet up with the neighborhood kids, and then what was ahead of you? Pure possible potential. You could go in any direction in the street. You could find anything to do. You could build anything you wanted. You could go anywhere. Like basically you had no plan, but basically you filled up the whole afternoon having the grandest adventure. This is pretty classic of our childhood memories. And now if you think about the amount of time, but say from 4 o'clock in the afternoon till you had to come in at night, be home, like that was maybe a 4-hour stint. But man, did you not live out like fucking 20 hours in that 4 hours? Like you were friggin' everywhere. You were across the road. You'd swum across the river and back. You had gone to the next town and back. You'd done this and that. You were everywhere, right? Time has definitely changed.
Yes.
It's absolutely changed, right? Because none of that happens now at all. You finish your work for the day and you have dinner and it's bedtime. Like
there's no time for anything else, right? It's crazy, but I was just thinking, we have this thing called muscle memory too, right? Does our body only really remember when we're using it? Because now we're not, right? We're sitting in front of a screen. Like, as kids, you're in there and you're using your whole body, right? And you're making things and jumping around and like you said, those days, afternoons, weekends, they just went forever.
Forever.
Like you could like it was crazy, like the amount of time. And a lot of people say, well, that's because you're getting older, and the further away you get from those memories, the quicker time seems to be going, basically. But I mean, this phenomena of the quickening and time going faster, it's been reported by all age groups,
it's back
right?
now.
Yeah, from the 20s all the way up to older people. They're all reporting it, and some people are saying that, and I haven't confirmed this, but they're saying that we're down to basically 18 hours a day.
Yeah, I've heard 16.
Yeah, that's 3/4. So that means we've lost a quarter. So that means someone who should be 80 is 60.
Yeah.
So that's why is this why people are looking younger? Because we know, right? We're seeing people in their 50s, 60s, and we're like, what the hell? There's no way you're that old. You look like
Hmm.
you're 40. Is that because you
Yep.
are 40 in the old time?
That's right. And it's so interesting. So basically, does memory give us time? So this is the concept we want to talk about today. Like at the heart of the matter, does memory give us time? So why did it change in 2000? Because the algorithms got introduced into the technology that was then quickly introduced. And suddenly our the amount of physical memory making that we were producing and outputting as a society dramatically reduced because when you're surrounded by algorithms, so when you're scrolling or when you're working online and you're just looking at the things and things are being fed to you, like all of that process, it doesn't generate memories. It doesn't. It generates an echo chamber. But in order to have a memory, you have to have an experience. You have to have a physical experience, which connects with your, if it's a big memory, it will have connected with an emotional, physical experience that you've had, which then allows our brain to carve out a chunk of data in our brains that where we hold a memory. And then that amount of data gets stored up as memory that gives us a sense of time. But since 2000, it appears that our memory has dramatically reduced because our physical experiences have dramatically reduced. Thus, we're not generating as many memories. And the emotional triggers we're generating are online ones, which aren't even in the we can't form memories around the online world because it's not physically tangible. You can't
No.
jump over it. You can't beat it up. You can't wrestle it. You can't make it. You can't tickle it. You can't go on an adventure with it. You can't do anything. You've just got it here as this like artificial concept, this replica, this image that it cannot generate a
It's,
physical memory for you. So
it's
then our
2D.
memories have reduced. Yeah,
It's 2D, right? Which is interesting. Everyone's saying, let's go to 5D, let's go to 5D. And they spend all their time in 2D. That's the thought.
that's right. That's right. And we're literally now in a situation where for the majority of the world, and I would say of the world, their physical memories have been reduced because they're having less and less physical experiences, less and less and less. As a result, their sense of time has reduced and time has sped up for the whole. So the algorithms and the echo chamber has reduced memories, which holds time, and so that's reduced, so time is sped up. That's the theory that we're looking at today.
Yeah. Yeah. So is the way to reverse this to slow time down to actually get back in the nature and live like we did in the 80s, right? Do it like we did back in the 80s. Because all this stuff was introduced to us as something that would help us, give us more time, help our lives out. But really, what's it done? It's
Of course,
stolen
the
time.
inversion,
It's always the
the perfect,
inversion,
of course,
always.
always the inversion,
And so it's stolen
always.
our
So
time
like,
and it's made more time, our lives more complicated, right? Because now we've got all
indeed it
these different
has.
avatars and all these different websites and we're trying to keep up and
Yeah, and how much more difficult and exhausting and draining is it to go in and try to say fix a website up versus go into a house and clean it? Like at the end of the day, going into physical space and cleaning it and clearing it and redesigning it is physically way more effort, but makes way more sense. You can do it. It's tangible. You know how to do it. And at the end of it, you're really proud of it because you've achieved an outcome. Whereas when
mm,
you're working online, it's just like a never-ending blur of invisible variables and factors that you're constantly having to try to figure out and discover and work with. And it's just like an endless blur. It's an endless blur. So our days are becoming an endless blur. Your whole weeks are going by as a blur because for the most part, we're not creating a physical memory. Us building this event here is part of our experiential. So every retreat, everything Cam and I are engaged with at the moment, it's all about having an experience out of this knowledge, out of these theories. Us physically getting muddy and dirty for the next, 7 days, we're going to form a memory out of that. It will be a memory and time will be slower as we do it. I just know it. I know that we'll work our asses off this weekend and we'll get so much done and we will just feel like, wow, I can't believe it's not dark yet. We've still got time, Campbell. It's only 2 o'clock.
yeah,
And
you
we'll be
got two more
amazed because
pieces.
we will have, yeah, like because we're physically engaging in the real life. But then if you think about when I was at university, that was the early 1996, around 96. I got really involved, of course, in the like all the, movements that were going on and all the stuff that was going on. And, you had to turn up into this room and there would be all the other people involved. And then you had to, as a group, like figure out how you're going to push this movement. And then you'd draw posters up and some would be photocopying. And then you had to go onto the street and like stick them on telephone poles. And then you would have to attend an event and speak and like rally people at the talk. And it was this ongoing, massive physical experience. Massive. Think about what happens today. These movements of people like posting a few memes on their feed. No
Yeah,
skin in the game at
got
all. They're
100
not
likes.
everyone I had respect for back when I was young, Campbell, knew how to make fucking glue out of flour and water
Yeah,
because we were all friggin' postering shit on telephone poles. We were literally postering the world with whatever it was. That was our job. We would go and post and make fucking glue out of flour and water, and that doesn't happen today. No one needs to do that. You don't need to you don't walk down the streets and see like poles that are this thick because it's just full of layers of different band posters and fucking political posters. That's gone, right? And all of those posters were innovative and creative and had an intent behind them, a passion, a consciousness that doesn't exist now. Now people just send meme send, change my little flag on Facebook. I support Ukraine. That's it. I've done my job. Like, yell at someone on another Facebook page about how dare you support blah, blah, blah. And that's their political movement. No memories whatsoever being created there. No physical movement. So, of
No,
course,
nothing you can show.
we've got
When you build things online, you can't show them really to anyone. You can't pick them up and hand them to things. If you're talking to someone who doesn't have a phone or a computer, you literally can't show them. You build a stage, right, or a dunny or whatever. It's there. You can bring people and go, look, there it is. You can jump on it and feel it, and it's tangible, right? It's different. And when we drove into Lismore yesterday, was it? And I noticed that when you're in a car, right, it's your peripheral vision. Like out of the side, you see all this constant movement. There's no peripheral vision online. So is that like, does that mean that our brain isn't sensing movement, like, and it's messing with the time distortion thing? It's not running properly. I mean, we don't know. There's also Project Looking Glass and CERN. With Project Looking Glass, remember
that's right.
They said they were looking through and they could see the future, and so they could make changes and adjust it and then put that into it and get and see what would happen with that. But it all stopped, and I'm pretty sure it was 2012, and they couldn't see anything else, and they couldn't explain it, and they don't know why. And on this video, I think he mentioned on that video, he was asking, is that because nothing else was being created? Like we've hit this spot where we're just going round and round and round and round, and nothing new is being formed. So there are no new pathways to travel. Right. We're caught in a loop.
Yes. We're caught in a loop, and there's no counter culture movement going on. Everything's all going on online. You don't physically see. I mean, when the protests happened in 2020, they were great memories for people. They really were great memories, and they were physically engaging. So the protesters at the against COVID across the realm, they actually made that a formidable memory in their lives. Like that is something that they will be able to speak on now forever because they experienced it. For the vast majority, it's a blur. It's a blur because all they had was the news and their devices. It was a blur, right? No formidable memories. It's a blur. So so we've got this situation of an introduction of algorithms and devices. We've got this replicating echo chamber that's getting tighter and tighter and tighter. When I started first making websites, I was starting from fucking HTML coding, which was like an overwhelming concept. How do you do this? And now there's like Wix or WordPress. Everyone jumps on those. Here's all your templates. And it's like that across the whole internet. Here's the program. Here's your templates. Here's your program. Here's your templates. Find the next program that does it better with their templates. So it's just a replication over and over. Here are the products that sell. Here are the ways to make money online. Here's what you need to do. Here's the AI you need to use. Here's how you can get quicker and quicker. So they really push getting quicker and better online. But the irony, the irony is it's stolen our physical time. Literally, not just in hours, but actually the neuro pathways of how our brain formulates time by holding memories has been taken.
Yeah,
So,
totally. No new pathways are being formed, right? There's no expansion happening in the mind, and all is mind, right? So if the mind's not expanding, then nothing's happening here. This is a mind thought powered realm.
yeah. And if they introduced artificial intelligence in at 2000 and Y2K, if they upgraded the whole world system in that moment, which is what I think they did, then that's when we started to get these like matrix glitches, right? These Mandela effect that we call this Mandela effect glitch that happened, and it's well known, I reckon, even outside the truth
Yeah.
community now,
Well,
right?
it
So
must be getting there. Yeah, it's getting crazy out there with Mandela.
yeah, it's getting crazy out there with Mandela. All right, so then we started to look at, okay, just to bring it to last week's conversation with Guy was about the water. How does water link into all this? Because one thing that we talked about last week was that AI, artificial intelligence, needs a shitload. Literally, it has a water diet. AI has a water diet. AI requires so much water to operate. It takes 9 liters of water to produce one image on AI. 9 liters of water. This
Yeah.
this bottle is one. This bottle here is 1.25 liters of water. For one image, it takes almost 8 of these bottles, right?
Mm.
That's just for image generation. To run and cool the entire system, basically the amount of water just the technology industry uses a year would basically be, I think, the whole world's worth of water. Like it's into the billions of liters,
It would have to be at least billions, if not trillions, right?
if not trillions. That's
I,
right.
I was surprised with Trump's, $500 billion infrastructure thing. Most of that, I think it was about half of it was going to build water facilities and stuff. And I was like,
Yeah.
what? But that's how much it needs.
Because
So yeah. Well, water carries memory, right? Water carries a
yes.
program. Water
Yes.
cycles through the whole realm, no matter where it is. It
Yes.
gets evaporated, it gets rained back down, and it gets consumed. Yeah. So what's
Yes.
happening with
It
all this
does.
water that's running through technology, AI?
That's right.
Is it getting programmed?
So that's right. So you've got half the world, if not more than half the world, is dependent on bottled water. Like
Yes.
nowhere that I've traveled in the last 3 years have they been able to drink water. It's just they can't drink it. The whole country can't drink it. The whole continent
Well,
can't drink it.
the Balkans was good. Most of the
The
Balkans,
Balkans was
but
good,
that's
but
about it.
everywhere else has been absolutely dependent on bottled water.
Mm.
What is bottled water? Well, it doesn't come from lovely little wells and springs in the ground with little fucking fairies flapping around about it
Evian,
and
it comes from
frogs
the
hopping around it.
mountains. Come
Oh
on,
my God.
the snow mounts,
No,
and they
it
catch
doesn't.
it.
Most, almost, I would say 100% of bottled water comes from like basically townships. It's the water that you get out of a tap is what goes into bottled. So where does the water you get out of a tap come from? So let's take it through the chain of like the water cycle. You're looking at water that's gone through. Oh, cow's frozen. Can you still hear me,
Oh,
buddy?
yes, I'm here.
Hey, buddy.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah,
So
the water
if
comes
you
from
look
lakes.
about it,
Oh,
if the tech industry uses the majority of water to exist, so it has a water diet, that water gets put through that whole tech industry and then comes out and it goes through some big process to remove all the heavy metals, but it's full of heavy metals and the radiation, and to put it through a whole new chemical process to basically neutralizes it so it's like zero at a zero level. And then that goes back into either agriculture or back into the sea or back into the drinking water. And then that gets cycled through. And then you add the shit and the sewage water, mostly full
sewage.
of
Yeah.
pharmaceuticals.
I
Yep.
mean, imagine
And
how
then
many
that,
abattoirs are like washed down with water. That all goes in.
yep.
you know,
That all goes in.
all the
And
crap.
then you add the chicken industry and the meat industry
Yep.
and the fact that that could possibly be human remains, and I think probably it is human remains. All of that gets cleaned and washed and produced in water. Now, our world is a closed system. So you haven't got water, just fresh water appearing from the skies or fresh water appearing from anywhere. You've got a recycling closed system. So the reason, and you guys will know this, obviously. So the reason we bring this up is because memory of all the substances in the world hold, water of all the substances in the world hold memory and intent. Water is the one divine element of all of them that will hold memory, replicate it, and store it. That's why the whole, like, if you smile at it, if you talk to it, la la la. So what happens when all of our water is recycling through the technology industry? What programming is occurring in that water? What happens to it when it basically is feeding AI and coming out the other end? And then we're consuming it.
Is that how you reprogram a population? Literally through the water they drink. We are, they tell us, what, 70% water at least? You know, to hold all that water full of programs that they're programmed in our, you know, in our body. That's pretty quick way to do it, right? Right. And we know that water's just used to clean up all the crap in the world. You know, it's used for sewage, it's used for, you know, abattoirs, it's used for mining, right? All, you know, they mix it with all these
For
chemicals.
food growing.
Yeah.
For
Food growing, yeah. And the food growing,
washing.
but they, you know, all this water they use for AI and that, they use a lot of it for agriculture and they run it through a, you know, they filter it or clean it or whatever. But that gets one stage and it goes to the animals and food. Then they say they clean it more before we can consume it. But if it's going on the food and given to the animals, then we're consuming it, guys, anyway.
Absolutely, absolutely, 100%. It's interesting, right? So, and the other side note to that is that we don't need water to be hydrated. So water as a concept is also a deception because from what we were talking about last week, we need electrolytes because we're an electrical system. We need electrolytes. We don't need water, which doesn't have anything in it. We don't need water. Water's been introduced potentially to us as a major, unbelievable, fucking insane programming tool.
Well, I
And
mean, water's a solvent for most things. It breaks most things down. We all know, right, that water can eat through a stone, right? You know, so it's a solvent.
it's true, actually. I've never thought about it like that. Yes.
Yeah, is that what
Yes.
is it literally, you know, breaking us down, right, as it goes through? Like, I mean, we're not saying that we don't need liquids, obviously, but we need electrolytes, right? Juices and things, or water that's holding salts and minerals and things, right? So, but H2O on its own is it does nothing for the body. And it may actually be breaking it down, right? We taking bits of it away. It may be why we're aging. So, you know, it's an interesting, there's such a big push. Are they pushing that to get us
and
to drink
losing
it
our
so they can program us? Yeah. Oh, now you've frozen. Are you back?
Essentially, we drink what 2 to 6 liters a day of water that we get told, and it's promoted at every level and every age that you have to drink water. Without water, you're going to absolutely die. And I have always held that belief. I'm a big water faster. I'm a big water's been a big part of that's my drink of choice. I've always consumed a lot of water, you know.
I
But
love
you know,
water.
having said all that, Campbell, as a big water consumer, my hair went grey. My hair went grey much earlier than most. And, you know, like I don't know. I'm just saying, like, water has been a big part of my diet.
Me
And if we
too.
take this concept, then
I love
luckily,
water.
I have also had I love it. I've also had a good relationship with understanding how water, you know, how you can change and reprogram the nature of water. And that's obviously followed us through the truth community. All of us have that consciousness. And most of us got out of fluorinated water and we got out of town water and we got into the sort of filtered water and we applied our own, you know, like skill set to how we were going to consume the water. But imagine that, Cam, if the water is actually the single biggest programming tool holding the single biggest lowest vibration AI inspired intention and memory, if it's coupled with the biggest food consumption being chicken and mince meat, and that being a human cannibalistic diet, and you add that to the low vibration of the physical body, and then you basically alter time by putting us in a tightened time loop, a replicated, recycled time loop that's getting tighter and tighter and tighter because we're no longer experiencing physical memories in the real world. And you add all that together, and we could explain where we currently stand on this realm. And maybe the truth community, maybe you are advanced in your consciousness simply because for some bizarre set of alignments, you just happened to get rid of fluorinated water, start to be conscious of your water. You stopped eating takeaway food, junk food from fast food outlets. You became conscious of what you're putting in your diet. And you're old school enough to still want to create physical memories in the actual world. And because of all those things, you're brighter and smarter and hold a bigger consciousness than most. I would say is how you would define the difference between someone who has found themselves in the truth community and someone who has not.
Yeah. So that's good, but I think, it looks like the way out is out, right? The way to fix all this, and there's a lot of talk about it now, and there's a lot of talk about the 80s and things were better back then, and the time thing, and people are, the mental illness, right, is rising, and loneliness is rising. There's actually companies in Japan that they employ people to go and hug people. Like, people pay to get hugged. Like, that's how bad isolation and loneliness is, and that's all of that, and plus the bad food, right? Like, people just sitting in front of a screen and eating crap. Like, all of this is linked to technology and the interwebs and social media, which is all it's a very clever echo chamber, because it makes you think that you're learning something new and you're going forward, when really it's just stuff being recycled and recycled and recycled. And I see it all the time. And you see it if you go through YouTube, you'll see certain themes, certain types of videos get promoted up. They come out of nowhere, and then suddenly they're everywhere, right? And at the moment, it's basically it's YouTubers watching TikTok videos is the big thing, and they're getting promoted everywhere. And that in itself is recycling. They're literally grabbing someone else's video and they just watch them, and then people watch them watching someone else's video. It's becoming this whoa. Fractal of repeating, right? Fractal of nothing.
Yes, it's true. It's true. And basically, we're in a situation now where the collective consciousness is now aligned with this. Like, it's now what shapes our world. It's now our reality. It supersedes our individual consciousnesses. It is what the dominant version of reality looks like. Time is sped up. We're getting dumber. The food chain's getting harder and harder to negotiate and navigate. Our memories are getting less and less. We're having less physical experiences, less social experiences, less touch experiences. So you've got young people now, teenagers today, they're really unused to touch. Like, they're not engaged in the physically, wrestling matches and races and pushing each other over into the mud, and all that physical contact has changed. And we as adults also, our social life has changed. Our social process has changed. Like, we don't do what I did growing up, which was to every Sunday there'd be always a big group of kids and adults going on these adventures, picnics, islands, beaches, whatever. But it was always done. Like, there was always a physical. Sunday was our day to get down and dirty as a group, as a family, as kids and adults, Like, I don't know, like you and I, we really push for these social events. We really push for these physical events. We really push for having physical experiences, taking all this knowledge that we accumulate in the truth community. And fucking hell, man, the truth community is just all knowledge. It's all knowledge. It's all knowledge and theories and hardly any experience, which means hardly anyone in the truth community is truly wise. Because in order to get wisdom, you have to turn it into an experience so that you can actually take your knowledge, have the experience, turn it into your wisdom. It does not get done in the truth community these days. It's
No, no,
all in an echo chamber.
I agree. Totally. Totally. So that's what we want to do. We want to use the internet to get people off the internet, right? We want to get people doing experiences, meeting each other, running around in the mud, trying new things, having, great conversations and new thoughts. So keep your eyes peeled. There'll be something coming up soon where you can join us and other people who want to, step out of the matrix. Because, there's been a lot of talk about, oh my God, it's a matrix coming. Oh my God, Terminator. Oh my God, Brave New World. Like, AI is taking over, especially now, right? AI has just been released. AI is taking over. Well, the thing is about AI is it only lives on your computer or in your phone. You can turn them off and walk away, and AI is not a threat. AI doesn't have hands, right? At least not yet. We don't have to engage in this, and I don't think the way to beat this is to go online and yell at other people online, and maybe it's to walk away. And I'm not saying throw away your computer. Use it for what it can help you do, right? But don't let it then use you, and start stealing your time. Use it to get time back, not don't waste your time on it, because it's a double-edged sword,
It's
right?
like an impossible, it's like an impossible equation though, like everyone's jobs, everyone's work, so many
My
people's
job is,
incomes are tied up in it.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's just like it's
we've got
not
to,
an easy proposition these days.
well, we've made the journey into the computer. Now we've got to make the journey out again, right? It's going to be a journey. We're going to have to make new groups, meet new people, start new businesses. And I have places where we
Yeah,
can go and have, whatever, get real food, right? Have coffees, have dances, whatever, have real active physical
dances. What
experiences.
happened to them?
What happened to dances, right? Like, I
What
don't think they
happened
even have them
to,
at
yeah.
schools anymore. Do they even have proms anymore? I mean, I don't know. Like
I mean, man, I used to love, I mean, getting some
the blue light
MDMA and
discos,
going out
man. Blue light
dancing.
disco.
Man, drugs and dancing in my 20s was like
Oh,
it was
EDMs.
that doesn't
Yes.
happen. That doesn't happen anymore. It doesn't happen. We were at a cinema the other night for the first time in 5 years, and we were the only ones there. And it was like I was in some weird cardboard cutout version of my memories of what that sort of scenario is.
Mm.
So it's not an easy proposition, and and it's very all invasive. And and we can see it even now in this week. How many YouTube clips now are talking to directly to the AI, like asking these questions, and then the AI is talking back to it, echoing what it says, like, that was an amazing, insightful idea you've just had. Yes, you're right, and going and then talking it through, like, and then and we showed some of these clips a couple of shows ago where we were talking about AI 1, AI 2, AI 3, the levels of AI and advanced intelligence, the difference between artificial and advanced. But you can see this echo chamber developing where people are just having conversations directly with the AI, and then that's their core source of information and taken as the correct answer, an advanced answer. And then that's put out into the population, and it so quickly becomes an algorithm and so quick and so tight that now my feed's full of people doing this. And will they have conversations in the real world with other humans on that topic and take anyone else above any other thought above what the AI has presented? It's just like that
And
conversation. I've listened to conversations that would have taken me, 10 years of learning, reading, watching VHS tapes, doing different retreats and schools and processes and disciplines for me to get my own wisdom to a point where I could have had a conversation that now people can have in 10 seconds
mm,
and take the answer, and it's done. Like that's a tight echo chamber. That's a tight loop.
It's time. What's the next step? People just sitting in their little rooms and never leaving, and AI is their only friend and their only source of information. I mean, because this is obviously the theory, right? That they want, right? This is the whole, lockstep and smart cities and blah 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 blah. So, again, we've got to, I think, make a conscious effort to start moving out of this again. And I mean, I think, to me personally, I think technology could be really good. It depends who's running it and programming it. If it's used, it's like when I was young, I used to think, why do they put so much crap on TV? Why don't they put more, documentaries and teach people real stuff? And TV could have been good, but it was run by negatively charged people. Same with the computer, the internet, same with the AI. So I think it could be good, but at the moment it's not. We need to really sort of make some decisions if we want to, start being ourselves again and start living through, the original avatar, right? Rather than the on-screen avatar, because, we're all not the people exactly that we are on screen. We all embellish our Facebook posts and we all, put on a bit of an act. Some people totally change everything. Then you got the filters, right? The people using their photos, you don't even know what they look like anymore. So I think, the way to slow down time, that, get some meaning back in your life, which is, that helps the whole mental health thing, is have actual experiences, act like it's 1980s, right? Like you did when you were a kid, have adventures.
I mean, basically, if you don't do anything physical during the day, like actually experience physical life and actually do something, the day will be a blur to the next day. That's what it will definitely feel like to everyone who's trapped behind this computer screen, like we all are. Your days will feel like a blur. Yeah. So any opportunity you can get to physically engage your reality outside of this in any capacity will, if we're right, make time feel more slower and more reasonable to you. Because I spin out on this concept. Like I've had a long history with the quickening in time and things talking to me on that level. And yeah, I spin out if I overthink it because I know I can feel that it's happening. So any opportunity to be physical and in the physical world should slow that down somewhat. So you're feeling grounded, at least to some level where you're not feeling, insane on the topic. Because when you're conscious of this and it's still all happening, it's a trip, man. It's a trip. It's hard to
get focused and, get your shit together. So if you are having issues there and you don't know what it is that you want to do, link below, come and join us for the Get Your Shit Together the hour. And get your shit together. Like this is really like if we're not pointing at something, if we're not working towards something, building something, then what are we doing? Like literally in the 2020s, if you're not out there doing something physical, you're in front of a screen. There's very few people who go in and feel a bit bored and pick up a book or go and, go for a walk. Most people go and check Facebook, right? Pull out the phone. Now we see it everywhere.
We don't build anything anymore,
No.
Like I love that side of life. We don't do it. Men don't solve problems like they used to. They don't go out and fix the cars like they used to or fix the house up or do the renovations. They just don't do it like they used to. It's just not part of our world anymore.
No, we've
all right, we've harped on.
What? We've harped on. Okay, we've harped on. I've been told. It's time to finish. What is the time? Yeah, wow. Okay, that's a couple of hours probably of us waffling along. So thanks for
They're
joining
fascinating concepts. I mean, there you go. You've got cannibalism in the food chain. You've got AI programming our water source. You've got a time loop maybe that's created from Y2K with an upgrade in the algorithm influence of the technology and basically the smart grid across the whole world. And now you've got an issue with time speeding up. And that's our current reality. Yep. So there you go. That seems to be what is the key vibrational interferences into the world we used to know and remember, I think. And I would like to end the show, Campbell, and feel free to stick around. I want to play that 11-minute clip on the topic of this is for the Aussies in the house, because one thing that obviously our audience does so very, very beautifully and well, to the point where we have to really cater for you guys when we do our live events by like taking you out of the public eye in whatever capacity we have, is that the majority of you are smokers, hopefully organic. And you would have noticed that the organic tobacco here in Australia took a massive price hike last year. And we basically, I think, 7,000% more than any other place in the world. But I found this a fantastic understanding of what's actually happened.
We're the most expensive country in the world.
And what was
it's more expensive to live in Australia than it is to live in Tokyo.
Actually, I've got that clip too. I might show them back to back.
We'll put that in
This
as
is
well.
yeah, I think I will, just for the Aussies. And you know, this concept that actually it's the smokers of Australia that are basically paying for the healthcare system, not because you're the ones getting sick. In fact, you're the ones getting least sick.
Yeah.
So
and we pay for everything, and then we just get taxed to crap. And on top of that, you can't smoke anywhere. You get off a plane, you got to go bloody walk a kilometre away from the terminal before you find somewhere where you won't get arrested, man.
That's why we're turning the farm into a venue so that we are all free and civilized and can smoke on a lounge room chair and be comfortable and no problem.
Yes.
That's how far we have to go these days. This is like the true underground movement. Where to hide all the smokers? Where to hide all the smokers, Campbell? Where have they gone?
We need to have like rallies of people walking down the street smoking. So keep your eyes tuned. The Jolly Swag tour is coming. Like I said, we've been rained out a bit, so we're a little bit behind schedule, so we might have to look at when it is. But if you're free this weekend, and that's like literally tomorrow,
come.
Sunday, Monday, I'll leave the email below. Send us an email. Let us know you want to come down, and we'll, come down and help us build a stage, camp out.
Yeah. Set up a campfire. We'll just chill out down there. Yeah, come and build some memories. Come and slow your time down.
Indeed.
All right. I'm just going to quickly share this. Well, you might have to stay on for this one because it's only 2 minutes. This is the Tokyo one, which, we just think is like good to know. Good to know.
Cost of living comparisons, Tokyo, Japan versus Sydney, Australia. The currency used is the Australian dollar. Let's start with Tokyo today. The average annual salary is $71,000. Big Mac is $4.66. Average rent for a 3-bedroom home is $2,535 per month. And the median cost of a new house in Tokyo is $559,000. Here are the numbers for Sydney. The average annual salary is $80,000. Big Mac costs $7.35. Average rent for a 3-bedroom home is $3,750 per month. And the median cost of a house in Sydney today is $1.46 million. So that's plus 13% for salary, plus 58% for Big Mac, plus 48% for rent, and plus 161% or 2.6x for buying a house. Tokyo is by far the most expensive city in Japan, but it's nothing compared to Sydney. Buying a house in Japan feels very cheap today. Would you buy one? Leave a comment.
What you're about to see is the scientific proof that's being silenced all over the world by the big mafia that we know here, Big Pharma. Have you ever seen what cancer looks like inside of a colon? You're about to see it. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your friend Janelle Rodriguez, and I am showing you here the evidence that doctors are sharing with us after this patient came in for the removal of several tumors inside of his colon. I know you just saw that. We're going to repeat this again. Look what's inside of this tumor. Just very cautiously look. Do you see that? It's full of parasites. The tumor is full of parasites. They are encapsulated. They are being round up by your body so they don't run freely. That is what cancer is. Cancer is not going to kill you. Chemotherapy and radiation to try to kill parasites will.
What?
Yeah, there you go. You thought it was expensive in Australia? You're right.
Oh my God. It's crazy, isn't it?
It's
far
crazy,
out,
though.
man.
Like,
Anyway.
It's $800 to rent just a standard house. It's crazy.
So, yep. So, Australia, the world's op shop for everyone else, but not for us. It's the world. It's like the Hamleys. What was that really expensive one in London? The Harrods. Australia's Harrods for Australians, but an op shop for the rest of the world.
Yes, yes.
So, all right, we're going to say goodbye.
Yeah, if anyone's looking for a prime minister,
And
we've got one you can have. Come and take him, please.
He's free. He's free. He's free.
It's free. Offshore prices.
All right. So love you guys. That was an interesting random talk. Lots of different concepts there. Hopefully we'll follow that up next week and really get into like really looking at it because they all make a lot of sense to me. Yeah. And I'm going to end on this clip. Now, this clip is put out by an excellent Aussie journalist called Topher. And let me just see. Yep, Topher Field. And I've always liked Topher, and he just does really good journalistic work. And he's just a truther in really good ways for the truth community on the topic of the Australian government. So hope you enjoy. If you're a smoker in the worm or anyone else, it's very worth watching. And we'll see you guys next week for Tartaria, Australia.
Stay awesome. Join us on the Get Shit Together hour. Bye.
Yeah, come and join us. You've got nothing to lose. Like, honestly, it's going to help your sanity doing this journey every morning with us. It just is powerful. Can't tell you enough.
That's right. And it stops diarrhea. All righty. Enjoy the clip, guys.
Stop diarrhea.
Yeah, you get your shit together.
Yeah, mental diarrhea. Mental fucking diarrhea. That's right.
All diarrhea.
All right. Yeah, fucking oath. All right, let's go with old Topher here. Enjoy, everyone. We'll see you next week.
In the most predictable news of the year, the tobacco wars, which were created by Australia's insanely high tobacco taxes, have not only led to a sharp rise in organised crime, including arson and murder, but now those taxes have gotten so high that they've actually led to a collapse in tax revenue. Yes, higher taxes leading directly to out-of-control violent crime and a $31 billion drop in tax revenue? Only a politician could screw something up that badly. And here's the bitter truth. Instead of demonising smokers, Australian politicians should have been saying thank you for smoking. My name's Topher Field, this is the Topher Project, and I help people like you to understand the world as it changes around you. We need to talk about a thing called the elasticity of demand, because once you understand that, you'll understand exactly what's going on here, the why and the how it can be fixed. But before we get there, I want to prove to you that this spike in violent crime and drop in tax revenue were both entirely predictable. And I can prove it, because I predicted it 9 years ago. Here's a video of mine from back when our tobacco taxes were less than 1/4 of what they are today, but already the future was inevitable. In 1920, the US banned alcohol. The idea behind this lifestyle regulation was that it would stop people from drinking. The reality was not that. Overnight, selling alcohol went from being a legitimate business to a lucrative criminal enterprise. Crime and murder spiked as gangs ran illegal bars and fought over turf. The FBI were created to fight the gangs and soon became a gang of their own. And as the gangs boom, law enforcement budgets go up. Crime and law enforcement both become big business, and the cycle just feeds itself. Which brings me to Australia and New Zealand today. For years, we've been increasing tax rates on alcohol and tobacco, and the higher the taxes go, the more the smugglers like it. Tobacco excise is so high that cigarettes cost more than 10 times what they do in other parts of Asia, meaning smugglers can buy it there, ship it here, and make an absolute fortune. And despite the Border Force and Australian Federal Police having huge budgets, 2.4 million kilograms of illegal tobacco are smuggled into Australia every year. We're a island! We have our own little corner of the planet, and it's really hard to get here. If we can't stop 2.4 million kilos of illegal tobacco, not to mention tons of illegal alcohol and millions of dollars worth of drugs from coming to an island, then maybe, just maybe, we're going about this the wrong way. After 13 years, the American prohibition on alcohol was abandoned, and a whole bunch of mobsters had to go and get a real job. If even the Americans can figure out that taxing and banning only create smugglers and criminals, what's our problem? Budget's out, tobacco excise is up 12.5% every year for the next 4 years. What the That's it!
If you can't beat them, join them. I'm going to be a classy criminal. I'll deal in Cuban cigars.
So when I say that this was predictable, I'm not talking out of my ass. I literally called it nearly a decade ago. So, what's going on here? And why, if it was so easy for me to see it, did our politicians just go ahead and screw up so badly? Well, it's because I understand an economic concept known as the elasticity of demand, combined with second and third order effects, and our politicians, by and large, do not. The elasticity of demand is simply a fancy way of saying that people change their behavior in response to things around them changing. So, for example, if the price of something goes up, people will find alternatives or they will reduce how much they buy. Their demand isn't fixed, it's elastic, it can change when placed under the tension of changes in prices or availability or whatever. And you might say, well, Topher, clearly politicians do understand the elasticity of demand, and in fact, that was the entire point of the tobacco excise. It was to make it more expensive so that people would buy less. Well, that's what they told you it was about. The excise is about revenue first and foremost, and before you say, but Topher, we have to cover the cost of healthcare for all of those cancers that smokers get. Not so fast. Way back in 2014, 11 years ago, Senator David Leyonhjelm crunched the numbers and found that even back then, when tobacco excise was a fraction of what it is today, smokers were already paying 17 times what they cost the healthcare system. Here's his speech to the federal parliament at the time.
I'd like to address my comments to the roughly 18% of the Australian population that engages in a despised activity. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for smoking. Your generosity to the nation's treasury is truly staggering. The government collects around $8 billion in tobacco excise each year. That's a lot of cash. Last year, smokers imposed $318.4 million in net costs on the Australian healthcare system. Depending on rainfall, smokers also cost the taxpayers about $150 million a year in bushfire control. If you do even basic arithmetic, these figures disclose that you wonderful, generous smokers pay 17 times as much as you cost. Of course, I'm aware that the justification for making you pay so much for your smoking is born of a desire to help you quit and to improve your health. However, every now and then the mask slips. Tony Abbott, in one of those unguarded moments while in opposition, made the following comment in relation to the then government's tax hikes. It would only be raising $5 billion or so if people are to continue to smoke. So let's not listen to this palaver about health. This is all about revenue. It's all about tax. It's all about a government that can't control its spending. That's why it hits you in the hip pocket.
So 11 years ago, smokers weren't just covering the cost of their own healthcare, they were actually subsidising the running of the rest of Australia too. But that wasn't good enough for our politicians. They wanted more. And it was the perfect cover. Politicians could demonise those dirty smokers, jack up the tobacco excise for their own good, and cash in to fund whatever other vote-buying schemes the politicians felt like funding. Smokers were now the goose that laid golden eggs. But the politicians, of course, couldn't help but slay the goose. You see, the thing with the elasticity of demand, the way that people change their behaviour in response to changes in incentives, is that it's different for every person. Some people who used to smoke, they didn't really like it, they just did it out of habit. And so in their case, making it just a little bit more expensive was all it took to get them to quit. These are people who are referred to as being at the margins. In this case, smoking. Yeah, they were smokers, but they were only just kind of marginally there and very easy to get to change their minds. But other people really genuinely like smoking. They like the nicotine and how that makes them feel. They like the social aspects that come with smoking. Smoking for some people feels as much a part of who they are as any other thing. And they're not going to give it up, no matter what the cost may be. These are people who are described as inelastic. In other words, they're not going to quit smoking just because of the costs. They'll cut costs elsewhere, and we know that some people have even gone without food to pay for their cigarettes. These people aren't going to quit. And the politicians, of course, looked at that and thought, bingo. We've found a bottomless pit of revenue. These are people who we can squeeze endlessly and they will never stop smoking. The money tap will never turn off. But you see, elasticity of demand doesn't just mean quitting or not quitting. People find a way. The free market finds a way. And by the way, the black market is just another way of saying the free market operating outside of government regulations. So when the government simultaneously makes something that is desirable, like tobacco, both illegal and profitable, which is what they did when they imposed these absurd taxes, they simply create organized crime. That's what happens. That's the free market response to meet the demand that is there. So whilst these inelastic smokers aren't going to quit, they are going to change who they buy from, and that's what they did. This is what's called a second-order effect, and it's something that politicians are famously bad at anticipating. They look only at the surface level of elasticity, and only in response to the first-order effect or the direct effect of a policy or a tax change. The second and third order effects, or the effects of the effects, are relatively difficult to model, so politicians don't bother. Politicians assume that people will respond to a change in regulation or taxation in pretty much exactly the way the politician wants them to and nothing else. But that's not how real life works. Some people will do what the regulators expect, but honestly, most people don't. And so the tobacco excise kept getting higher and higher, increasing every 6 months for years on end. And then? Well, then the free market did what it does. It found a way to meet that demand outside of the extremely regulated and taxed system. And if that sounds like a recipe for organized crime, well, yeah, that's what it is. But it turns out it's also a recipe for a collapse in tax revenue, because once that tax rate exceeds a tolerable level, people simply find a way around it. So, thanks to our politicians in Canberra not understanding the elasticity of demand and thinking that they can demonize smokers and tax them to the moon, and that there's nothing the smokers can do about it, not only do we have a crime wave of firebombings, smash and grabs, and street shootings, we also now have a $31 billion black hole in the budget. Tax revenue, which you could say has gone up in smoke. So what's the solution? Well, by now it should be pretty obvious. Slash the tobacco excise down to a level where it simply covers the direct medical costs imposed by smoking and nothing more. If taxes were set to that level, the opportunity for profit in the black market, the free market, would disappear overnight. The crime wave would end and the untaxed tobacco market would evaporate instantly. But are our politicians smart enough to figure that out? And more importantly, are they humble enough to admit that the last few decades spent demonizing smokers has actually been a lie? They should, but I won't hold my breath.